Hello, my friend. This is the Mind's Gym podcast with Brandon Bickmore, your turbo lover. I want to sincerely thank you for listening. And the reason I started this podcast was to give back and let you know that if you are struggling with your thoughts and mental health, I promise you there is a way out, and that would be in, if you're willing to do the work. Please enjoy this episode. You guys are rock stars, in my opinion. So let's circle back just a little bit. Your story's so fascinating. We just pushed pause for a minute for a break. This is obviously going to be a longer podcast than normal. Might have to break this into 2 separate episodes. Hopefully you guys are okay with that. But I just know too much about this young man's life, and I don't want to miss anything. But let's go back to the bishop's office just for a minute. And you saw little blonde sitting in the office with her parents. We didn't finish that, and I'm sure everybody's like, what about the blonde girl? Let's bring it back home. So who was the blonde sitting in the office, and why was she there?
So, like I said before, that the bishop wanted me to leave the community and go repent from a distance and report back to him every 2 weeks and pretty much make amends of the wrongs I've done. And then he wanted me to come back and marry this girl that was sitting there. Now, I got to dig it into the psychology of this. Why would that girl be sitting there with her parents too? All by herself. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? She was probably just another rebel child like me. They were trying to get us to connect so they could pin us down. Yeah. And we both said, to hell with it.
I wondered if that girl was there because she was in trouble.
I guarantee
or not, but I'm not sure anyways.
The look on that face where you're just holding your hands in your lap and you're looking down and both your parents are sitting next to you. Dude, you're in trouble.
She was in trouble too?
You're in trouble.
Okay. So tell us the story.
So later on, I go thinking and asking about this stuff. I'm like, what the heck would have happened if I would have stayed? And got talking to a couple psychologists later on down the road. And they're like, oh, he would have definitely married you to that girl and sent you. Because that's all his agenda was to try to get you to come back, settle down, have a family in that religion. And then after that, you're pretty much locked in. You know, you're teaching your kids that religion, and from there on out, you're literally brainwashed into just going to the next phase. You know, I mean, if they can get you locked down to go into one phase, I can keep going. Yeah. And that's the pattern I had already seen. I was like, I wasn't having it. Whether you wanted me to repent and come back for a distance, and later on, a couple months down the road, when I was being a good boy, get married and have kids, who knows if that would have even happened. Because at that time, they were shutting down marriages between people. They weren't allowing relations between men and wives. Like, they were starting to separate all that stuff and splitting families apart. They weren't being procreative or having any more kids. I think that's still one of their laws today, is they can't have relations with their man and husband can't have relations because of the revelation Warren gave a while ago. Like, they couldn't have any more children, you know.
Really?
Yeah, in the religion. So men and women couldn't sleep with each other or be with each other. So they were literally taking men, building this little side house off from their main house where they went and slept for the night while their whole family slept in the main house. Just for that sole reason.
Wow.
Literally just degrading men one notch at a time, you know.
So that little blonde gal in the office, had you seen her before?
Never.
Because your community's small.
It's small, but even as a young man,
never seen her.
There's just so much that's happening around. Even if you go to church a bunch of times, you notice these certain families. There's still families that you just don't know quite who they are or what they are. You know, like, I mean, they kind of have a resemblant kind of a look. You know, Jessup Bortle, whatever. Families that are all intermarried that kind of have that look. You're just like, okay, I kind of might know who you are, but
did the wards like you guys all, was there a 9 o'clock, a 10 o'clock, at 11 o'clock, at 12? So you wouldn't see everybody at church.
No, we went to, growing up, everybody went to church at the same time, and it was 2 o'clock.
But you'd never seen that girl at church.
I'd never seen her, to my recollection, her face. I was just like, oh yeah, I know who you are. I know who your dad is.
Right.
I just didn't recognize that right off.
All right. And do you remember her name?
I didn't. I never got her name. Yeah, never.
But so did they say, oh, by the way, she's here?
No.
For you?
No, they didn't say that.
That's just your assumption.
That was just my assumption and my intuition, like thinking like,
oh,
but why would they put all this together, you know?
Okay. But you went in there and you said, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the opportunity to say, now, wait a second, we got this girl out front that wants to meet you that we highly recommend you marry. They didn't even go there because you said, I'm out.
Yeah, that was...
I'm leaving.
The option is if I did repent and come back a clean person according to their standards, I was going to be married because I was an elder. Like, I was a young man going on into that category in life, in the religion. And if the young man held up to the standards, they would get a lady placed by their side.
Wow.
And my assumption, I don't know if it would have been her or not. I couldn't say that, but that was just my gut feeling. That's kind of why she was there. Like, they kind of had the whole Ponzi scheme lined up. If I said, yeah, I'll repent, then they'd be like, okay, well, this is who you're going to get placed by when time comes, you know.
We have a plan for you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go back to Montana. You go to Montana, you tell them I'm leaving, I'm out. You go to Montana, probably hang out with that girl that you met.
I did.
Lived with her for a little while.
Yep, 6 months.
6 months. Did your thing there. Do you want to speak about that at all? Because I want to get to how you met your sweet, beautiful wife.
That is let's just get short to the point. Okay, so I moved back to Montana, okay, and I hooked back up with Tiffany. I'm on the street. I don't have anywhere to go. And so this is the middle of December. December 10th is when I left. In the middle of December, winter, a couple $100, my truck, that was it. And a couple friends up there that I knew that weren't religious. So that's why I went up there. Went back to the place where I'd just been working. Left the place where I'd been working because I had a couple friends there and some relations that I thought were cool that I thought I could make work out, So I ended up sleeping out of my truck for almost 4 weeks, almost the month of February. I was sleeping in the sub-degree temperatures in my truck, working this gig, this handyman job, for $20 an hour. I think it's like $18, $19 an hour, something like that. Just trying to live out of my truck. And then Tiffany finally took pity on me and started talking to her dad. Hey, we have this extra room in our house. Can Drew come stay in? It's in the middle of the winter, Can we help him out? And old Brian finally gave in. He's kind of a grumpy old alcoholic, but he's a good-hearted guy. He's like, yeah, we'll take him in for a few months. So I lived in that house with Brian, in and out of my truck and in his house, kind of working that gig, living with my girlfriend for a minute there. And then one day Brian comes home just plowed drunk and mad as hell. Just, get out of my house. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. You're sucking off me. Whatever, I'm just like, okay, I was respectful. I was like, okay, it's your house, I'm leaving. Bye, thanks for everything. And of course, Tiffany's freaking out too, and so is Julie. Like, what the heck are you doing, Brian? He's like, man, he could figure it out. All drunk and pissed off. Like, I'm done taking care of this kid, and I knew it too. And I was just like, okay, that was a short time. That was nice to get me out of the winter because it was getting into spring. But then I was homeless without a job again. I'm just like, crap, what do I do? Middle of spring, still negatives at night, cold as heck, have a little money in my pocket. Brian's pissed at me. Won't let me live at his house anymore. I'm not working for him anymore because we just had a fallout, so I don't have any income. And I'm just like, what do I do now? So I'm like, all right, you know how to work. You got all your tools. Quit being a baby. Go find some work. Of course, this is in the middle of the winter in Montana. Nobody's really working. It's hard to find construction work. So I go down to the city office and I look on the bulletin board just for papers, flyers, anybody looking for labor, handyman, anything, just to keep me busy. And I see this little flyer looking for concrete formers from out of Blackfoot, Idaho in Fairfield, Montana. We're building a hydroelectric dam up here. And I was just like, yes, because Fairfield was 20 minutes out of town. I had all my concrete tools. And I was ready to go to work. I was completely bored out of my mind, broke, and just hungry as heck I'm trying to get into my own apartment so I can rent from someone. So in the middle of the winter, I have a quarter tank of gas, no money, and I drive out there in 2 feet of snow in my 4-wheel drive pickup. And it's a little bit of highway out to the spot, and then it cuts off these little country roads. I'm literally plowing snow with my bumper to get this job, to find this person where this little restaurant lady told me he might be up here at this canal forming this big, huge hydroelectric canal dam thing. And I'm just like, okay. So I go driving up there. I get clear up the top of the road. I'm like, crap, how much further can we go? I ain't got much gas left, And the trail comes up and comes down into where the wash is. And there's this huge project going on where they're building this hydroelectric turbine in the middle of this dry canal in the middle of the winter. And that's why they're building it, because it's dried up for the winter, frozen. So I'm just looking around. I'm like, well, I don't see anybody important. Where do I start? It's just another one of my gut things. So I put on my tool belt, right? I put on my drill like I'm acting like I'm just going to go to work, I'm going to act like it.
You look like a worker.
And I go trotting down there, and a couple of the guys are like, hey, who are you? You looking for someone? I'm like, yeah, where's your foreman? Who's your boss? I'm looking for work. He's like, he's down there, and he's down there pulling out measurements, reading the plan. His name was Bruce. Never forget the guy.
Bruce, I got to stop you for 1 second. So I want the listeners to know, when I first met you, okay, you were, 28 or 9?
Yeah.
And Andrew, being raised in this, FLDS religion, was very shy and awkward, okay? This is when he was 28 or 9, and I said, hey, I need, you're a hardworking kid. I'm going to hire you, and I want you to help kind of me run this project and manage it and kind of help out, do a lot of the labor and whatever, and he agreed. But his big concern was he doesn't know how to talk to human beings and communicate properly. So that was 7 or 8 years after you had gone back to Montana to go and ask for work. So incredible, but obviously you were in dire straits. You were in massive need of some housing, some food, some money, some everything. So like you had to put aside your fears, I assume, going up to be like, hey, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to talk to these outsiders. I'm used to speaking, inside the religion. I can't imagine how scary that was for you.
That was actually another one of those fear factor times in my life where I knew in my gut, if I didn't act on it and just do it, that I was going to lose everything. It's just one of those decisions that you just know if you don't act on it, if you don't go that certain direction, it's going to be a bad fallout. You're not going to get the prize, per se. And I knew if I didn't act in that moment right then and there, like I acted like I knew what I was doing and I needed that job so bad that I was willing to go out there and work without even getting paid, that I wasn't going to get it, because there was no work anywhere. So I was proving a point with a chip on my shoulder. Hey, I'm here to build stuff. What do you need, bro? What do you need done? Let's go. The pay can come later.
Did you tell Bruce that?
Yeah, no, I did. I was like, what do you need done? I have all my tools here. What's up? What are you paying an hour? He's like, I'll hire you for $19 an hour. Go over there and start putting those turnbuckles on that form with that guy. It's like, all right, that's stuff I'd been doing for 2 years before that. Went over there, started slapping boards in and flipping turnbuckles on as fast as I could. At the end of the day, he come up to me. He's like, how long have you been doing concrete? And I've just been like, about 3 years. He's like, you're getting a raise, and then I want you to put you as still foreman here in a few weeks so as you understand what's going on around this place. You're a sharp kid. He's like, thanks for coming along. We needed the help. Like, I was like, yeah, thank you, dude. Like, heck yeah, you know, what's this still thing about? What's this raise about? You know, I started questioning about that. He's like, oh, we got to bend all this bar, number 8 bar, in a radius grid with uprights coming through it every foot. Build, you know, the case this thing in concrete and come up with it up to the top. And I'm just like, sounds easy enough to me. Show me where the still plan is. He's just like, you know how to read a blueprint? How awkward I was and everything. He's just like, you know how to read a plan? I'm just like, yeah, you know, like I know how to read a still plan. I can look at the details and do the still. I can tie it all in correct. And like, yeah, I can do that. He's like, really? I thought you could, but you're sharper than I thought, you know? So I got into bending still, and that's what I did there for almost a whole year, is just clear until that canal that summer. I was there bending still and putting up forms.
So you're there by yourself, still hanging out with Tiffany?
Yeah.
For that whole year?
Yeah. Me and her still kind of have a relationship about that time. You know, I wasn't as hard into her then because obviously her dad, we had a big fallout, and she was her daddy's girl and didn't really like how it went. So it was kind of an argumentative thing, and eventually all fell out. But
fell apart during the... So did you find friends?
Yes. I found an amazing
coworkers?
Human. Yes. Well, and I found another individual that literally turned my whole life around.
Who was that?
Working there.
What was his name?
His name was Kel Vandereet, and he served 2 tours in the Navy Seabees in Iraq. So he was a lieutenant, and not only that, he was a recruiter for the Navy. So he had excellent people skills and knew people very, very well. You know, how they handled themselves, how they worked. He obviously had been in construction with the Navy for 7-8 years. This kid knew his stuff, like extremely smart. Comes from his dad and mom are extremely smart too. His mom's a psychologist with a PhD, and his dad's a rancher, and he runs a ton of farmland out there in Fairfields, Montana. But anyways, I met this kid, and he immediately picked up on who, you know, how I handled myself, my body, and me and him just started having a conversation. And well, one thing leading to the next, me growing up in a military family, I kind of clicked with him really quick on how he just the words he used, how he felt to me as a friend, and then how he acted around me as a human. I guess you could say it kind of reminded me of my dad in a sense, but in the Gentile world, like this kid knew everything that my dad didn't teach me about. So we started becoming really good friends, and by then I'd left Tiffany and I'd gotten into an apartment by then, which was a blessing. The money came later. Finally got me a place in an apartment. And life kind of took off from there. Kel took me underneath his arm, and he pretty much is like, all right, you're my little brother. He was 5 years older than me, and he was like, you don't know a thing, dude. You're smart, like hands on, but street smart, book smart, dude. You need some lessons on how life really works. You know, what you need to be doing to keep yourself safe if you're going to go hang out with party with a bunch of women. You know, what you need to be doing to, you know, bring in an income. You know, what are you thinking about later on as far as like where you're going to live and what you're going to do. And I mean, he was a big brother in that sense, but also it was kind of the wrong, like it was a blessing and a curse thing. Like it was a heavy drug, alcohol ring, military guys, you know, got into that crowd, hanging out with a bunch of rough boys. 2.5, 3 years down the road didn't end up very well. Just ended up getting wrapped up in a lot of the drug and alcohol scene and started, kind of catering to that system of like freedom of party, more or less than working and focusing. And it really took me on a street for the next 2 years to where I ended up coming to terms with my life, whether I was going to make this decision to quit these drugs and alcohol and get away from this crowd and move away and get out, or I was going to end up dead or in prison, because that was the road it was headed to, and I knew it. Even after all the good stuff that I'd been taught and, groomed that Kel did teach me, there was a lot of nonsense in the background that I didn't think needed to be, for sure.
You've got a real sense of awareness that not, I talk to a lot of people. You have the real sense of knowing what's good for you and what's bad for you. Like your level of your physical and spiritual awareness, especially like today, like it's impressive. And you're a young buck still. It's pretty fascinating that going along those ways, you're knowing what you need to do in the back of your mind, although you're following the guidance of others. Like your intuition is pretty incredible.
I've been blessed with a great intuition, and I've also ignored it a few times, and it's kicked my ass. So I knew it was a good intuition, and the more I listen to it, the better off my life is. So
when you're hanging out with Kel and you go and you meet all these concrete steel workers, your new boss was at Bruce?
Yeah.
Do you let them know where you came from? Hey, I was raised in the FLDS religion. This is what I've been taught. This is what I've been doing my whole life. Or are you embarrassed to talk about that?
At first I didn't know how to quite communicate that with people. Like, oh yeah, I come from this place. It was crazy. I grew up working my whole life. I don't know anything but that, really. But it was really interesting to me. The more people I started talking to it about it, almost the easier it became to be to explain my story to people and where I came from. At first, it was so awkward to talk to Kel and Bruce. Hey, yeah, I'm just a kid out here trying, because obviously they're asking, hey, where you come from? Like, you from here? And I'm like, no, I'm from Arizona. What the heck you doing clear up here? And, oh, I left the religion. Well, what kind of religion? Polygamy. Crazy. What that? One thing leads to the next. You get on big conversations and stories with all these construction workers, and they got a million questions to ask, and before you know it, you just become their friend and their coworker, just talking about another thing at the job. At first, the first few weeks, it was very awkward. Of how do I explain this to anybody and actually have them even care, like what I'm even talking about. But the more I talked about it, the more people they cared, like they were interested.
For sure.
So it was easier the more I did it.
Your story's fascinating. How many times do you think you've really sat with a human being and really told your story, and they truly listened? Like how many human beings have you sat with and
Kel
really wanted to know your story?
He was one that I dug deep on. His mom, the psychologist, she was another one that was extremely interested, because she works with a lot of people and problems and different cultures and situations and families. Him, his mom. There was one other. There was a little bartender one time, one of Tiffany's friend. She's shorter than Tiffany, little redhead girl. I mean, I had probably she was off one time on work, and we went to the bar with her and her husband, and I sat down, and I swear, I think we talked for probably 8 hours of just the crick and whatever it had to tell. And she told me some of her life stories, some of her struggles. I think it was just kind of more of a therapy thing for her and me, but there's only very few handful of people I've actually sat down and this is my story. This is why I am who I am today. Because of all this has brought me to who I am, and what I'm preparing to be is my background is quite extensive as far as things that have happened.
I have a million questions for you. I could talk to you for probably 24 hours on this podcast, but obviously we can't. But, dude, I just so enthralled with your story. It's so cool. Okay, so let's get back to Alika. Okay, so you leave, go to Montana, in the apartment, steel worker, concrete, tore it up. So then did you leave from there?
Yes.
That job ended.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then I got in with Kel, right? So I was wrapped up in that bad crowd, kind of hanging in Montana, not doing very well. Laws coming down on us. I knew it. I needed to shift and move on my life from that scene and go into something different, which I had been thinking about getting married and wanting kids, because I'm getting later on in my 20s. And
You're getting old. What were you, 23 or 4?
The way we were groomed, dude, it's so dumb.
You were old?
Yeah. Supposed to be having kids at 18.
You were getting old. How old were you in Montana when you left?
I was 21 when I first left there. I was 24 when I ended up leaving.
You were a grandpa.
Yeah. Gray hair and everything.
You were getting old. I like that.
I was actually in a very bad situation. By the time I ended up leaving, I was hooked on pills. I was drinking every day. I was in with midnight crowds every night. It was not good. And then it just got to other shit that was just way too sketchy for me, and I knew it. Just as morally as a person, I knew it. And I was like, okay, it's gone too far. It was all cool and fun and games for a few years, but this has gotten to a point where I'm in too deep. I call my brother. I'm like, he had just left the religion probably 6 months, living in a house with one of his other friends that just left in Colorado City, and they had an extra room, and they were full on going tile in St. George because there was a big boom happening. So I called my brother. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm either going to end up gone or I'm going to end up in prison. It's probably where you'll find me if you can't come get me from the Vegas airport. And by the way, I got a little bit of money, but dude, I need you to help me finish buying the tickets so I can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you serious, bro? I'm just like, I'm serious. One brother to another.
So you knew you had to get out of there.
And he's just like, okay,
Where was your truck?
I'd sold it.
Oh, you sold it? You sold your truck on
That's
Montana.
what drugs and alcohol will do to you, bro.
Oh, okay. So you were hawking everything to survive.
I put myself back into a shitty position.
Did you
after
really?
climbing out of a shitty position.
Yeah.
So I went down, came up, went down, going back to my roots, okay? Going back to work, getting the heck out of here, not drinking alcohol, quit doing drugs. Daryl came and got me at the Vegas airport. I'm probably 138 pounds, 6'1". You can only imagine how skinny I was.
Skinny.
I was bones, bro. Ask my brother.
Really?
He said it is the worst I ever looked in my life.
That's a story I haven't heard yet.
That's because I'm embarrassed about that one. That was not a good phase of my life. That was very...
So you were drinking and drugging pretty heavily.
Very heavily.
Doing it all?
All. Just everything but nasty heroin. But yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Heroin too?
No, none of that shit.
No, not heroin.
Not heroin. Ugh.
Okay, but everything else.
Yeah, everything else, pills, coke, drugs,
Name
alcohol, you name it, it's there. Yeah.
You dove deep.
Yeah, I kind of tasted that picture of life,
It's part of your journey.
I tasted it. Tasted it damn hard. Got knocked in the head, and I was like, okay, I don't want to taste that anymore. So I ended up moving back down south. We're in Colorado City again, throwing this little house party for the weekend, and a couple girls show up. One of my girlfriends that was working with me, her name was Nikita, showed up with a girl named Alka. That was her cousin. And I knew who her family was really well. I knew who Carter was because he'd played basketball with me before. And
is that her brother?
Yeah, her older brother. And I'm like, of course, we're eyeballing each other the whole damn night. Back and forth, just eyeballing each other, wondering who we are. I didn't really have the guts to go talk. Like, she's barely leaving the religion, shy as it could possibly get for a female to come out of the religion and actually talk to someone without being completely condemned, So she's coming out of that gate too, and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm spinning with a glass of water in my hand, just sipping on this thing, trying to not go too far, too fast in the night. And all of a sudden this glass of water comes flying out of my hand, like probably 3/4 full. And all of a sudden this thing, and I look up and this girl's just chugging this water. And I'm like, well, that's a ballsy one. We should have a conversation with this one too. Like, hi, how are you? You thirsty? I'm about cottonmouth about got me. I'm about to die. And I'm just like, yeah, well, there's more water over here. Let's go get another water. She's like, I'm spinning so hard. I can't even think straight either. I'm just like, yeah, that'll do it to you too. Come over here. Let's get a piece of toast and drink some water. We go over to the toaster, make a piece of toast, have some water.
Sacrament.
Pretty much that's what it was, dude, in a weird way. Think about that.
Breaking bread?
Yeah,
dude.
breaking bread. Anyways, that was
See, you're back.
me and my wife met.
Over bread and water.
Over bread and water, drunk AF. Drunk AF, like to the point where we were about to both puke.
So you needed the water and the bread.
Yeah, the toast to soak up the alcohol in the water to keep her straight.
Good.
So anyways, after that, we get a little bit buried straight together. I'm just like, hey, you want to sit down and watch some Family Guy? Chill out, hang out for a bit. Got talking more and more, and then I figured out who she was. And then I was, this is really interesting to me now. Like, I haven't had a girl take this much interest in me since Tiff, like Claire, Montana. I'd been through a few of them up there just trying to play my cards, and nothing really panned out. But I think the reason it clicked so hard is we were both from the community. We both know who each other were almost to the T. We knew each other's families. We related on a ton of stuff. We both had passions and like funny things that we laughed together about, and we wanted to hang out more and more. And that's after 8 months down the road, we were like, you know what? Her dad was kind of pressuring her, like, what's going on with this guy, and I was just like, you know what? It's time to do something about this. And yeah, it might have been too early, might have been too late, but it's just another one of those feelings where I'm just like, hell, if you're going to go get what you want, you better go get what you want. And I was damn sick of driving Alka home every single night and then waking up and going to work because I'd have to drive her home at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, drive back to my house, sleep for a few more hours, get up and go back to work because she wanted to hang out with me every day. And so one weekend, I get my black leather shiny jacket on, get a good shave in, get respectful. I'm like, I'm going to go ask for this girl's hand. Straight up. I'm going to walk into this dude's house and ask for this girl. Whatever happens, happens, because I'm sick of all the drama in between it. Like people wondering, like, because they're freshly moved out of the religion, so relations between girls and boys weren't really that kosher, just trying to figure out their own ways. Like if you're messing around with someone, you're going to marry them pretty much. And it wasn't really that mindset with me. It was more, I really loved Alika. Like I really found joy in who she was as a person. And every day I hung out with her, I fell more in love with her. So it felt right to me. So I walked into that house, walked up to Greg sitting on the couch, sat down next to him, shook his hand. He's like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to get married. I want to marry your daughter. How do you feel about that? He's like, feel pretty good about it. When do you want to do it? And I'm just like, I'm just one of those guys where I just make moves, I guess. I don't really think of time too much when it comes to crazy stuff. And I'm just like, well, let's do it in a couple weeks. Let's just do it right here at the courthouse in Fredonia. Little hillbilly town out in the middle of Arizona. Let's go get married. All right. Set it up. A couple weeks later, we were married.
Jeez, that's fast.
And then I took her to my house, and I didn't have to take her home.
Yeah. And tell us about your your house real quick.
Okay.
Is that the house you're in now?
No. I was renting with my
you're
brother
renting
at
for
that
a while.
time. Yeah.
Oh, you were?
When I moved back down on the south end of town there, I was renting with my brother and Chris Broadbent. We had rooms.
So you guys stayed with your brother for a little while?
Yeah. We stayed with him for probably another year about. And then all the occupancy stuff started popping up in town after Warren Jeffs got arrested and the state took over. So property was popping up right and left in town everywhere for anybody that was a beneficiary to go apply for. So at that time, there was a little trailer in town over in the trailer park area that was vacant that I don't remember where I got the word of how it was vacant, but I immediately went and put in an application for it to get the place. It didn't have any back taxes done on it. So they were just like, oh yeah, you've lived in this place long enough. If you want to go ahead and take over payments on the trailer and get it up to par and pay the utilities and pay our $100 occupancy fee that we ask for every month as owners of the land, we'll let you live there. And I'm just like, okay, cool, great. And well, a few months down the road, like I said, I went to Minnesota. I traveled a lot for work. So I eventually ended up taking Alika to Minnesota to go frame for a job there. Because we got done doing a bunch of tile and I was ready for a change up. There's a pretty good opportunity in Minnesota to go up there and make some good money doing carpentry work. So I'm like, yeah, I've never been to Minnesota. Cool. Gonna go check out Minnesota for a few months. Went up there that summer and we got pregnant and, well, that was the end of traveling for work. We ended up traveling back home. We actually ended up traveling to Colorado for a few months, worked a job there for a little bit during our early pregnancy, and then we ended up moving back home to that trailer.
Which is Colorado
City, and I ended up fixing that little trailer house up until I'd gotten word again that there was another piece of property available, but it was a house. But it also had back taxes owed on it. So I pretty much did the same thing. I immediately went and put in an application for it. And I called every weekend, like, what's this house doing? What's the scoop on it? Can I get an appointment to come see someone about it? Did everything in my power to get that place. And man, that was the best investment I've done up to this point in my life, I think, as far as tangible value in life.
Let's talk about that because most people don't know. So typically in this FLDS religion, or at least the Warren Jeffs community, what they would do is build these homes, and they wouldn't quite finish them.
Yes.
Because if the home's not finished, you don't have to pay taxes until you get your certificate of occupancy.
Yes.
So they would build the home and not put the siding on or leave something undone on the home and never finish, and they would just live there forever, and then they didn't have to pay property taxes.
Correct.
And that's what the whole entire community did to evade paying property tax.
Yes.
So once the state of Arizona got fed up and started really looking into it and doing a deep dive, they were like, hey, that's when all Warren Jeffs got in trouble. Things started going south, and they went to the state was taken back.
Yes,
repossessing the properties, and then now there's these properties available, but you could go get one if you were part of that FLDS community, but you'd have to pay the back taxes.
Yes.
On the property. And so when you got your property, which you got basically for free, but you just had to agree with the state that you'd pay the back taxes, which was how much?
I think at that point it was like almost $10,000.
Yeah. So you had to, did you have to pay the $10,000 up front or over time?
I paid the majority of it up front just because I wanted the place really bad. And then I made payments to finish it off.
Yeah. And then they gave you the deed to that home. And now you're living on an acre in a smaller home that was built, and it simply cost you $10,000 or $15,000.
Yeah. No, the loan for the house, they gave me the loan on the loan. They gave it to me for $68,000, which was 60% off of what the actual tax assessed value of the home was.
So they sold you the home.
Yeah. So let me backtrack a little bit. So I had to pay the back taxes to get it free and clear, so the UEP could start working the property. And once the state had their money, then they could release the property to the UEP trust. And once the UEP trust had a hold of it, then they could give it to me as a beneficiary for what they felt like I needed to pay for according to my efforts for the community, or how much it was assessed for tax value wise by the state. So the state came in, they assessed the place for almost $200,000 or whatever. I went in with all the work I'd done, with paperwork that I'd done and all the efforts I'd done for the community, to the UEP trust. And I just go, look, this is how much time and effort and money I've put into this community. I think it should be minused off the price of this house. Plus, I've also put in XYZ amount into the house since I've lived there. And I also think that should be taken off the bill. And however they value the house to the tax assessed property of how they minus all those margins off, it ended up being 60% off, which I got the house for $68,000, an acre and a home, a 5-bedroom home with an acre.
Which is incredible.
Which was a blessing beyond blessings, because that's really turned into a piece of real estate working for me in my lifetime right now. It's been a good one.
It's been really good. And then, you told me a story earlier. You kind of partnered up with one of your good buddies, and he gave you some money, purchased a portion of the property. Then you've used some of that money to pay down your medical bills and so on and so forth, so you could get out of a little bit of debt. Yeah. Which is so kind of your buddy. Good for him, but also really good for you. It sounds like a really neat joint venture that's working on your behalf in the last 12 months, right?
Yeah. Yes. In the last year, I've gone from pretty much about as broke anybody can think of, no credit, no money, no savings, to, a pretty good, I was able to buy me a new van and pay off my medical debt, and get to where I can breathe, again with my bills and stuff. Yeah. I'm ahead. I'm not, thinking of, holy cow, I got to make this amount of money or I'm going to, my power is going to get shut off.
You just paid down some of your medical debt, right?
Just some of it.
You're still working towards
getting
it all handled.
But. Yeah, I still owe Intermountain $100,000 plus, but that's just,
just money.
Just
you'll figure it out.
It will come. It's just money.
Because let's talk about real quick about your affirmations and Bob Proctor for a minute. I interviewed a guy a couple days ago, which may be on the post. I don't know if I'll post yours or his first, but he's a big fan of Bob Proctor, and he's really helped him turn his life around. Tell us about your affirmations, what Bob Proctor taught you, and how it's benefited you since you started practicing his method of affirmations.
Okay. So in my lifetime, I was raised to believe that money was bad, it was evil, and it had no purpose, and anybody that had a lot of it usually did something evil or morally wrong to get it. So it was the devil's workshop if you had a lot of money. Wasn't taught to us as kids how to handle it, or save it, or use it. Didn't really even get my paychecks, even though when I did get paid in my older years framing, my dad would go pick up the little pay that Brian Jessup would give to us boys. My dad would go pick it up. And that was just how it was, It didn't change for me really. Like, oh, my dad's, picking up my paycheck for the storehouse. That didn't really bother me any. But later on down the road.
But that's just the way it was, right?
It's just the way it was, yeah.
You'd go work hard and Dad would pick up your check, and
Yep.
or Warren Jeffs would get it one way or another.
And so at the end of the day, we man, that's a hard one to think about, a whole cognitive of it.
Yeah, we're just talking about the affirmations and whatever. Money that you were taught that money was evil. And that makes me think,
I
too.
think my brain's getting ahead of here.
Yeah, it's okay. I was thinking, too, that they're teaching you that money's evil and, if people have it, they shouldn't. And what about Warren Jeffs? He's got all the money.
That was how we were raised. Like, you gave all your money to the bishop or to the prophet, and he took care of you. Yeah. You did not need to worry about anything. That was it. You didn't need to ask questions how you were going to be taken care of. You did that, you're going to be taken care of. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Hand in your tithing, hand in your 10%. If you can do more, please do more. Oh, by the way, if you're an elder, you have to do $1,000 every month on top of your 10%. That was a thing going on there for a minute.
You had to do an extra 1,000.
Extra 1,000.
You donate
to
the bishop and the storehouse on top of your free 10%. Labor and your 10%.
That was the calling of the elders, of every grown man in that community from about 2010 to 20 there, where those elders out there in the field were giving $1,000 every month to the bishop or the prophet. Now, think of the numbers for a minute. 2,000 people giving $1,000 every month to one person. Think how much power that person all of a sudden has.
So, oh my goodness. So, what about your dad's? Let's just slow down here. Your dad's also working.
Yes.
Framing, doing whatever he's doing.
My dad was a journeyman lineman for Twin City Power.
Okay. So he'd make his money from the city, and then he'd give 10% of that.
Yes.
Plus 1,000, but he could keep the rest because he wasn't working for the church.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. So did your dad give the 1,000 and the 10 for how long?
I'll bet he still does it to this day.
You think the 1,000 is still part of the program?
I bet.
My goodness gracious. I need to start a church.
Dude, churches and trusts, oh man, they're untouchable when they get a lot of money.
I just am shocked by what the human mind will believe and what it will do to have an incredible afterlife. What it takes to go to heaven. Give up everything you've ever done. Okay, so back to Bob Proctor and the affirmations. So let's chat about that.
So when Kellyanne was born, I was at a pretty low point in my life. Again, obviously drugs and alcohol were not going to solve this problem. Even though I dabbled with it for a second there, I was just, so distraught with my feelings, life, that I started drinking again for a minute. But that came to an end really quick. I realized real quick that I was not able to handle my family as well as a man when I was drinking. So I quit. And I've done it a couple times since then on and off, but nothing like I ever used to, ever. But Bob, I met this guy because I was I think I was reaching for a higher purpose or something that I could cling on to that was spiritual, that I could believe in with all my heart and soul, that I knew for a fact would help me out in my life through my financial, my spiritual, my health. And so I just got on YouTube and I started researching spiritual mentors, people that work with affirmations, because I'd gotten wind of Byron Katie, which you mentioned. I'd heard of her and done a little bit of thinking on that. And I think that's where I got into Bob Proctor. And he made so much sense to me right out of the gate that it struck my interest on how he was just wording stuff and what he was talking about vibration and that you didn't need to work hard for money. I think that was the one thing that struck my head so hard is he's like, people don't work hard for money. People provide services or products to people for money. He's like, this is his analogy. I'm just imagining a person working really hard, and every time he analogizes this, I just think of me working really hard and somewhere in the southern hemisphere where it's above 100 degrees, and they're running this jackhammer, chipping out this piece of concrete. Those people aren't making very much money. And he's like, but they work really hard. Like, that's some of the hardest work you can find. And I'm just like, wow, that really, really resonated with me. So I started doing the research about all of his affirmations. And the one affirmation that clinged on to me that I just started saying, even though I started thinking it was the corniest thing to say around people, or just to write on a piece of paper and look at and say it to myself, I just thought it was so odd and weird, was, I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. And I made myself remember that phrase, and I just started chanting over and over and over again when Kellyanne was in the hospital and I didn't have any money again and I didn't have any credit and things weren't looking very good with hospital bills, and it was just another kind of a downslope on financial. And I just got to the point where another thing Bob Proctor says, if you can just sit there and get your mind to calm down enough to actually write out a plan of what you want and who you are as a person, it will change your whole life. If you can really sit down and think about who you are and what you want and write that one goal on a piece of paper, it will change your whole life. And I was like, really? Did that really change my whole life? Well, it did. I'll get to that story in a minute, but I want to analogize a little situation where this vocal affirmation worked, and I knew it worked without a shadow of a doubt. I'm up here in the hospital with my son. He's having this internal bleeding. I haven't been to work in 3 weeks. Pretty down financially, physically, mentally, exhausted. And lo and behold, we're finally getting released from the hospital. And we're thanking our lucky stars that Kelly's doing good. And we're broke. We don't have any money. We didn't even know how we were going to get home with fuel. I think I had like $20, that I was going to call Carter and get another loan from him just to get home. I'm like, listen, babe. No, not. I did say this to my wife. I was like, listen, babe, I'm just going to say these money affirmations and I know things will work out. But before that night, I went and stayed at the Ronald McDonald home, and I wrote on a piece of paper that I could show you this day in a notebook, where I sat there until I fell asleep in that chair. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I got lines of it just written. I was so determined that was going to work. And the next day we're getting wrapped up, go home. Brandon comes and says hi to us because we're leaving, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. All I knew is Kellyanne's internal bleeding was done, and he was back to being a little bit par and not acting like he was going to go on us. And we get driving down the highway a little bit, right out of Lehigh here, and our tire starts making funny damn noise. Either CV axle or something's just going on with us. So there's a Big O right there. I'm like, babe, where's the closest Big O? So we look it up, and we pull off right there. I pull into the parking lot, and I get out of the van. I'm starting to unload stuff out of the back to get the jack out, because I'm going to put the spare on. And I'm grabbing the tire, and I'm wiggling in it, and I'm just like, this isn't a flat tire. This is something different, This is CV axle making all this noise. This tire doesn't look low. And I'm like, babe, we don't have anything. What are we going to do, And then an impression came to me, like, Brandon just gave us a basket. Hey, babe, will you look in that Easter basket, see what Brandon handed to us? And she reaches behind. She's sitting in the back, and she pulls up this basket and starts. I think I remember a pink egg. She opened it, and there's like $120 in that one. And she opens up another egg, and there's like another $80 in that one. And she opens up another egg, and there's like another $50 or $60 in that one. And I'm just like, holy freaking crap. This really happened because I did that. I know it. It's another one of those gut things. I know it so strong in my life that there's nothing that can take away that knowledge away from me now, that I can do that. And that is a vibrational line to direct currency in your life, money, in all forms. If you keep that channel open, instead of sitting there and worrying about it and beating your head up how much you don't have, and being ungrateful for all the situations that money could bring, and start thinking of the things that money can bring, and being grateful the best you can, man, I'll tell you, as soon as I started having gratitude for more things is when it started flowing in my life. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? What is this purpose for? I started asking the question, what is my purpose here? What am I here for? What good can I contribute to another humankind? Being to a person as a purpose, as a gesture of kindness or a service. And as soon as I started twisting that mindset in this last year, everything started flowing. I sold my house. My credit's going up. I got a new van. And this has all happened within 1 year. So this teaching that Bob Proctor teaches, where you can make your yearly income, your monthly income, he isn't lying. This guy is on point. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to use those channels of vibration to actually pinpoint that in your life. Because once you find it, it's like a river. Once you're in it, you can't stop. It's the way he explains it. He's like, Bob Proctor explains it this way. He's like, there's one river. You could think of it like a flowing gold vein going one direction. He's like, there's another river. You can think it leads to poverty and wretchedness and everything that can bring down a human running the other way. And he's like, this little affirmation right here is the oar in your boat to flip your boat to the other side of the river where the gold's flowing. And once you do that, once you understand that, there's no going back. Nobody can take that knowledge away from you, ever. That's when it really started resonating. Like, all the things I'm doing right now, I'm going to have for life. This is changing my life. And from here on out, I'm going upwards. Like, there's no question. All I have to do is come up with one good idea that I love, put it on a piece of paper, say my affirmations, and look at that piece of paper every day. And that will happen without a doubt, just like a pin falling to the ground if you dropped it, like gravity. It is a law. Earl Nightingale teaches that it is a law of success. Concrete laws and things that people do that have had success in this life, there are certain things and patterns that work without a question of a doubt. And yeah, as soon as I started to believe that even more, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to put the craziest idea out there. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to have $100,000 in the bank before this year, the end of this year. Dude, before even, I think we closed on the sale of our house in November. Like, it wasn't even a year before that 100,000 hit my account. Not even a year. And all it was my thinking, my perspective.
Pretty amazing. Hopefully you guys are listening. Sandrew's got a wealth of knowledge. But yeah, it's a mindset for sure. I do want to say one thing. I had no idea. And by the way, it was myself and my mother and my brother Chase that went up to see Andrew at the hospital and his baby and his wife. And it was Easter. And we just had an idea to do the right thing, and we did it. So we all donated to the cause. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows it wasn't just me, but I didn't know the effect that had on Andrew until, honestly, today. I had no idea. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that story and being happy and grateful. And gratitude is huge, because we do get stuck in those crazy mindsets, that, negative, attitude that we all get, no matter what situation, financially, what's going on in your world. It appears to me that we all have these crazy thoughts, and you're just a beam of light to remind us on how to bring it back home. So that was massively gratifying for me, just to hear you tell your story. Not that you shared that we donated, but just to know that being happy and the grateful and the gratitude, it means volumes. It's massive. For sure. Boy, this is just, I don't know. I could talk to Andrew all day long. Literally, this guy's got a story. I told him last year, and I told him again today, like, bro, you got to write a book. And I told him I'd finance the book. He's just got to, him and his wife got to put the story together, because we could go on and on and on about where this young man and his wife have been. And they're survivors, and they're still plugging away today and still going through hard times. And man, when I see this kid, he's always smiling. He's happy, and I know he's got struggles, and I'm just like, how do you do this? Like, how do you keep getting out of bed and keep putting one foot in front of the other when, all these hurdles and obstacles are showing up in your life? But he's honestly you're like the epitome of how to do the right thing after you've been through hell, so thanks again for sharing your story. Let's briefly talk. We're getting close to the end here. Okay. I could go on and on and on, but let's briefly talk about Stephanie, which is your 8-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. Let's give her some airtime here. My thoughts are with her, and I even thought this the very first time we went and met you, is, and maybe not the first time, but after we've seen you, after Killian was born, that Alika and you have to really focus a lot of time on Killian.
Yes.
And so Stephanie's missing out on some real mother-father time, learning to be tremendously independent, because, like, you guys are overwhelmed with Killian. So let's talk about Stephanie for a minute. Like, I know you mentioned to me today that she was in school. She struggles in school a little bit. So you're doing some private, school or tutoring, homeschooling, or a smaller school in Colorado City she's thriving a little bit more. But how is she doing? And tell us just a little bit about her life.
Okay. Stephanie was born C-section. She was a very bright individual ever since birth. She had her eyes wide open, looking at the world, absorbing, very observant little girl. She is 8 now. She can be turning 9 in May. She is a very intelligent girl, with electronics and computers and screens and stuff like that. Literally, like, this kid is, kids these days do spend a lot of time on screens and computers, but she can figure out stuff. I'm not that well versed in computers, but my wife is, and this kid is right there with her, and she's 8 years old. Like, the next thing, if she learned how to type, she'd be right there with mom on how to run in a computer. Mom can type pretty fast, so I think that's the next thing she's got to learn. But as far as that, like, her missing out on education and some of the social things that a average kid would, get if their parents were paying more attention to them, per se. She misses out on a lot of time just explaining how things are in life, because it's just so all of a sudden with a lot of times with her, and she just has to sit there and kind of observe and like figure it out on her own, because me and Alika are so wrapped up with Kellyan working with his needs that we miss some of her needs and wants sometimes. So that's definitely put something in her life where she's working through it and learning how to cope with it on being a more independent single kid. Because yeah, I mean, she wants another little brother and sister. She loves Kellyan. She loves to take care of, loves to play with him, but Kellyan just can't get up and play like a normal little brother and beat the crap out of her and run around with her at 3 years old like she wishes he could. So that takes another dampener on her, is always wanting friends and other people to hang out with, because she doesn't have siblings to really express all that through. So that's one thing that we're gearing up for, is we're trying to get her into more sports activities, social stuff that we can get our hands on. She wants to go swimming, so we're going to get her swimming lessons and stuff like that to keep her her mind motivated, and so she doesn't get depressed, and she feels like she has friends and family to work with while we go through this journey with Kellyan and her. You know, it's one of those things that it's really touching as a parent, because you want to give your kids everything in the world, but when you got this one that absorbs so much, it is a lot of energy and time to buckle down with your 8-year-old and explain the birds and the bees and be with her all the time, when more pressing matters calling, which is our little boy, and that takes a big chunk out of her life, and she has to learn how to cope with that. So, but very smart kid and super active, like, gosh, all over the place.
Yeah,
sure do love her.
Incredible little thing, but yeah, she's having to witness a lot in her young age.
Yeah, she's
got a different life than a typical child.
Yes, she's maturing a lot different than other kids in a lot different ways, and you can see it as she gets older.
Yeah.
But
I got to see her today on FaceTime, and adorable little thing, cute as could be. Tell us a teeny bit about your wife.
Okay,
just a couple minutes of. I know she's incredibly
Alika.
book smart.
Oh man,
reads a lot, studies a lot. And maybe I'm probably going to have her on too another day. So I was going to say, why did she leave the religion, or what was that all about? Let's save that for her to explain. But just briefly tell us about her and like what she means to you, and I mean, she's given up her life for this little guy, as I I see her, and it's just
literally
wow.
It's
like, talk about a mother that loves a child, like,
unconditionally.
I mean, she's all in, 100%.
All in. Oh, she'd already be gone if she wasn't.
Yeah,
I've seen it. I've watched her go complete breakdowns, come back, like complete mental breakdown.
Does that happen like often?
No,
Not
only
too
when
often.
it gets really, really rough.
It's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, she's literally.
Of course, I'm there too, but I'm trying to hang on to the ship too. So
of course, you're driving the ship, and then she's literally sleep deprived.
Yeah, she's
How do you function when
way
you're sleep deprived and you're 24/7 a nurse?
Yeah, she's
and a mom, and a husband or a spouse, wife.
Yeah, she's tough. Damn tough mentally. Wow. Whew. Mentally tough, more than a lot of people I've seen handle and deal with situations repetitively over and over and over again till you think that you don't even know why you're living. And you hate it. You don't know why it's happening. And you don't know what's going on. And you wish that you weren't here. You wish he wasn't here to have to live that life, and that pain and that all the stuff that comes with it. But then she always pulls herself back up. She always comes to the next day, just keeps going. It's like a damn steady stream. If you put a damn big boulder in the middle, I wouldn't even care. I'd just find a way around that boulder and just keep flowing. And that's who she is. She's incredibly intelligent, book smart. She has her own library down in our office where she literally, they were going to condemn all the old books in the library that they took down in Colorado City, and her mom went and got them all, put them up. So she's got shelves of books at my place, boxes of books out in the storage of just literature, knowledge.
Does she have the energy and the time to read, or does she not read like she used to?
That's the sad thing about it all, is that doesn't happen hardly. And it's her passion, and the time it takes to read and to. She's told me this, to indulge in a book and actually put myself. I don't feel that way anymore in life about myself. Like, that used to be me, type of thing. I don't do that anymore. I don't have the time. I don't feel like I have the time. I could put myself in that position to just read a book and be all engulfed in its emotion and what's going on there, instead of what's going on around you as a little family. And that's a big one for me, because I know she loves to read so much, and along with a million other things that had to go along with Kelly, and as far as hobbies, habits, all this stuff that you think you knew her as a person, you completely change around, and you're buckling down, and you're just trying to make things survive. You lose a lot of entertainment in your life, I think. I have. I used to do a lot more hunting and fishing and riding and bikes and stuff, and now I rarely even go fishing every year. If I do, it's once a year on my birthday, and heck yeah, if that happens. So it's been a journey to sacrifice on our parents' end as well, just giving up what we want to make our children survive and give them the best that we can, especially when they're so needing. All we're hoping and praying for, and putting into perspective on what we want in life is as Kelly gets older, we find caretakers, caregivers to come in, give us a little bit of time so I can repair with her, because it's no lie, it's definitely taken a toll on our marriage. We're not as thick as we used to be before he was born. We've had a lot of fallouts, a lot of discussions, a lot of words, but it's all a part of the grand scheme of it. Is, I think, it's all mentally preparing me and her for something. I don't think people go through that pain and anguish in life unless they're being prepared for something that's going to come. And we don't know what's going to come. But I do believe life prepares us for situations. And if we're in tune and listening, we'll catch it, we'll be prepared for it. I can't exactly say, how long Kelly will live, if he'll outlive me or I'll outlive him. I can't say. I'm no judge on that. And especially watching my sister being a vegetable, going from a state they said she wouldn't live past 2 or 3, and she turned out to be 15. I've watched human life live through some stuff that I know it can keep going. Give a little bit of ambition and a little bit of food, and that human life will keep going no matter what. It is tough.
Yeah. And one of their goals we discussed earlier today was if they're considering moving to Utah, possibly in the near future, and they have a little better healthcare program, so you can get some hospice.
Yes.
And some help.
Yes.
That the insurance would actually cover, so that you guys aren't both exhausted and you can actually take a break and maybe go to lunch or go to dinner.
Yeah.
And actually have some time.
Yeah, no, it's been
with yourselves, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the neat thing too that Andrew's doing is when they sold their home, they sold a portion of it, by the way. I don't know if we discussed that on the podcast, but he sold it with a friend so that he could get some money to pay down some of his debt. So they both own half the property. and they're subdividing the acre and got a vacant lot that they may build a house on and sell or whatever. So that's been a real blessing for him. But with some of those proceeds, his wife, Alika, has always wanted to go to Scotland. And so he's decided to put some money aside for her. And she's going on vacation soon for 2 weeks to Scotland in May. Mm-hmm. And that would be her first break in 3 years, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to take care of Killian. You're taking 2 weeks off of work.
Yes.
And she's going to go and have some alone time and enjoy herself and actually get a break from her tough and difficult and crazy life. So that's really neat that out of that cell that you're able to buy her a little couple weeks of freedom.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
Money buys freedom.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody ever tell you different. And if they say it can't buy happiness, tell them they don't know where to shop. Serious.
Yeah. I have a few thoughts on that, but yeah, I would agree. Money makes things simpler, but it's not it's not everything, but it definitely helps tremendously, especially when you got a mountain load of debt from having a child and out of the hospital. Cool. So real quickly, I want to go back to your mom and dad.
Okay.
Talked to mom a couple of times.
Yeah.
Over the last 15 years. How many times would you say?
She used to call me for about 5 years there. She'd call me every year on my birthday. And then it kind of dwindled off from that to about every other year. And then since my sister's funeral 2 years ago, I haven't heard anything of them.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that with this new calling with Warren Jeff's son coming out of the woodwork and taking over the religion, them being followers still in that religion, he set up some sort of a thing where anybody that was an outcast or apostate was absolutely you could have no relations to him whatsoever. No talking, no saying hi, no anything, or you were going to be cast out yourself and lose everything if you do that. And I think once that happened, my mom stopped talking to me altogether, and my dad as well hasn't. Well, he's never talked to me since I left, but still won't talk to me.
Crazy. It's so hard for me to fathom. I mean, I was thinking today riding bikes, like what they're missing out on. You know, you're just like a breath of fresh air. You're like salt of the earth individual, and they don't have the ability to watch this. They have the ability, but not the want to get to know you, to get to see you, to watch you grow. And it's just shocking to me. You know, it's not like you're a terrible human being. You're just a guy that made a decision that this religion wasn't working for you, and because of that, you're an outcast. I mean, for those of you out there, we all have differences with family members and whatever, but like, come on, get over it. Like at the end of the day, it's all that matters is love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
As we spoke about earlier, that's
I'll tell you what.
The number one.
About the time it's too soon to say that I love you is when you see them in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it may be for you and your parents. Like, who knows? It's so sad.
I've come to that reality that next time I probably see my dad, he might be in a box. You know, I don't see, well, okay. Like I said today, I need to change my attitude and hope that
we talked about that on the way
come
here.
around.
Yeah, you never know. You know,
know.
your dad may come around and be like, hey, like, you know, life's too short. I can't have animosity and hatred towards my son. And I don't know if it's that or just the religion's like, hey, no way, you can't go there. If you go there, you're going to miss out on heaven.
Yeah.
Like, but that just doesn't make sense.
I don't mean
God would never instruct anybody to never talk to their children, no matter what their thought and thinking was.
Well, here's a question.
Right? That's like, come on.
Yeah, that does not make any sense at all.
Zero.
even in the religious aspect of teaching, like loving your neighbor unconditionally, like Jesus did, you know, if you're talking in a religious sense, because he loved everybody unconditionally, and we're supposed to be more like him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, practice what you preach, I guess, huh?
Yeah, and that's what I asked you today is like, so if this FLDS religion is teaching from the Bible, or I don't know what books they're teaching from, but like so often you hear that, you know, forgive others for they not know what they do. Like, hey, Andrew's whatever doing the wrong thing, mom and dad, in your eyes, forgive him for what he does, and, you know, love the guy, you know, or not. And I don't know, I can't make sense of it. You know, Byron Katie would be like, don't argue with reality. Like, this is the journey that you pick. This is how it's supposed to go. And look what you and your wife have created. Look at the life.
Yeah.
Look at the human being you are. You know, sometimes we need some adversity, because you're a really balanced and, you know, kind, loving individual. And maybe if you were, mom and dad were still letting you in the fold and talking and discussing, you maybe not have learned as many lessons as you have learned thus far. You know, it's obviously part of the process because it's happening, and that's the reality of it. But my goodness, mom and dad, give your son a break.
Yeah, I'd actually love to shake my dad's hand. He's got a very strong hand, a working man hand.
Huh.
It's made of leather, like always using his hands.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about your dad, because I listened to you talk about him. Like, I can tell you really had looked up to him.
I did.
As a kid.
I did.
Maybe you still do today, but
I do in some sense.
Guy is smart.
Just for his wits, yeah. Like
hardworking.
What he taught me, I look up to that now in life.
Sure.
The values he gave me as a young man, they're irreplaceable. My dad, extremely intelligent person, gets that from his dad on genius level. Like, so my dad was born into the FLDS religion back in '63. He was the first boy out of his family. My grandpa had 29 kids. Went to the Air Force when he was 18 at the end of the Cold War. Spent 2 tours in the Air Force being a radar technician, flying all over the world. Doing radar stuff for the Air Force. Graduated top of his class, staff sergeant. Was going to go into the computer field of radiation and technology at that time. That's when X-ray and computer was coming out heavily. And got out of the Air Force, and for some reason decided to go back into the religion he went to the Air Force to get out of. So he joined the Air Force, spent 2 tours, left, came back. By then, his sister had married a guy up here in Salt Lake that Randall had a sister. April was my dad's sister. Randall was my mom's brother. So my dad met my mom through his sister, April, and they got to be friends. And later on down the road, I guess my dad went and asked for her hand in marriage, and they were married. And well, us 13 kids came years down the road. When I was 8, we moved from the Salt Lake Valley to Colorado City, and I lived the rest of my life, out there pretty much growing up. And that's about as best as I can give for my dad's history, knowing his background a little bit. But all the things that he's accomplished as far as being, after he got out of the Air Force, he was told to go be a school teacher for the religion. So he went to college and went and got a degree to be a school teacher. And then the religion's like, well, we need a power line guy. You know anything about power? And so he's like, yeah. And he went into lineman work to become a journeyman lineman and graduated a journeyman lineman. After he got certified, he ended up, that was when Colorado City was slowly being built into a town, and my dad had very high expertise levels of electricity and running underground lines and overhead lines. So as a kid, that's pretty much what I helped my dad do. If I did go to work with him, I was out in the field digging trenches for a conduit in the sand in 100-degree weather to get power ran through it, gluing the conduits together and digging sand in the creek sand. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, they were trying to create their
So-
own infrastructure with power,
Yeah,
so they could live off of their own little city, not have to rely on the state for power and water and whatever. So they're trying to create their own little things they could live off the land in case the end of the world was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, genius human beings, like the work ethic and what they've taught you and everything they've created. Like, man, they're hard workers.
Yeah.
And they're brilliant thinkers, minus they don't talk to apostates.
Yeah.
That's where they're
Some
confused.
absolutely. 100%.
Amazing. And then mom, just briefly about mom.
Okay. So my mom was born in Salt Lake. Grew up here till she was 18 and married my dad. She pretty much helped her mom out being a house cleaner her whole life. Her dad passed away when she was 14, I think. So my mom never had a dad growing up as a young teenager. She just had her older brothers that pretty much raised her with her mom, Grandma Deborah. As soon as she was married, they bought him a little house there in Pleasant Grove, and I think Adora, me, Krista, Naomi, and Daryl were all born up here. Daryl was the baby when we moved down. I had a nice little posse going on here, and when he was called to Colorado City to move down and help build that area up for the community and the religion.
Is that when he joined the religion too?
No.
He was in before that.
He was in before that, yeah.
Gotcha.
He was born in it, went to the Air Force, came back into it, married my mom, kind of took off from there.
Yeah. And I did ask you earlier today that as far as you know, your dad only had one wife.
Yes.
He didn't practice polygamy. He just believed in the religion.
Yes.
And who knows if he had more wives or wives on the
Yeah,
side. We don't know that. But
I don't
as far
know.
as you know, he was just with
Yeah,
your
as far as I
mother
know,
only.
he was very loyal to my mom and only had one wife. Yeah.
Which is kind of rare in that religion.
It actually kind of was. And I always wondered that about my dad, since he is such a stalwart leader in, all his acts of his life, that he didn't have another wife.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he made that decision, like, I don't want another one, because I watched my dad have two wives and they're always going crazy at each other. Didn't work.
And maybe did. Nobody knew too, but do you think that's possible or not?
I don't know.
No idea.
No idea. Never talked about it.
Wow. Crazy. What's your mom's name?
Heidi.
And what's your dad's name?
Joseph.
Joseph. I'd love to meet your parents.
Oh, man. That'd be, dude. You
I
have a
would
conversation.
love to talk to your parents.
You had a
I'm
conversation.
going to ask your sister that you called today if there's any way that she could. Does she talk to your mom and dad?
Yeah.
My
sister Katrina talks fluently with my dad. That's the weird thing.
What?
Yeah.
Because she's an apostate too.
Uh-huh. But my sister
Really?
Katrina can go meet with my dad and have conversation with him.
I've
heard of this.
The reason being maybe you were the first to leave.
Oh, yeah.
And you may be the one that caused the fallout for the entire family, and he's maybe putting that on you. Never know.
No.
Your son. Where are you in the 13? Youngest,
Second.
oldest, middle?
Second oldest, excuse me.
Second oldest.
Yeah, I have one sister older than me.
We got to ask your sister if I can chat with your mom and dad. I want to talk to them.
That might be very interesting.
Yeah, I want to. How cool would it be to talk to them here in the podcast booth?
Something else.
Because I'm just, a Gentile. They can talk to me. Just say, hey, there's a Gentile that wants to have you on their podcast just to hear about their lives. You never know.
I could
or in private.
I could tell
Ask
Katrina
your
to
sister.
say something.
I would love to have a conversation with them. I truly would. It'd be like a dream for me. One thing you told me too, we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
I mean, I want to hear about all your siblings. I want to hear about all sorts of stuff, but obviously we got to get rolling here because you got to drive back to Colorado City this evening. You said your grandpa, which was your dad's dad?
Yeah.
He left the religion a couple years before he passed away.
Yes.
That's nuts.
He called it quits after serving his whole entire life for that religion.
How old was he when he...
He was a young...
on?
How old was he when he passed on?
Yeah.
My grandfather was 87, I believe.
So he was in the religion for 85 years, basically.
Well, he joined the religion with his mom when he was in his 20s.
Oh, okay. So
He came
20
into
to
the
84 or 5. And then the last few years, he like, this just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, they veered from the book in their teachings. This is what I joined for. This is the standard I joined for. And they're not believing that or practicing that anymore. I don't believe it. I don't believe what they're doing anymore.
What do you think your dad thinks of that?
Let's just say this. My dad didn't show up for his dad's funeral there. I took his place as a pallbearer because I'm the oldest grandson.
Really? He didn't go to the funeral. Well, he's an apostate. He can't. Your grandpa's an apostate too. So he can't show up.
Yep.
Or he's going to lose everything that he's ever earned and gained on this
Even
planet.
his wives didn't show up for his funeral for that very aspect.
Really? So he wasn't there, nor was your mom there.
My mom wasn't there either. No.
What about the wife? What about your grandma?
No. Both grandmas.
Oh, grandma didn't go either.
Grandmas didn't go. Both of them were still
Both?
alive.
Oh, 2 grandmas because he had 2 wives. Were they mad too that he left?
I don't know.
Neither one of his wives went to his funeral.
Dude, I'll tell you.
What?
I lost some respect for some people at that funeral.
Neither one of his wives.
Nope. Nor his oldest daughter either, April.
Oh my goodness gracious. What's going on in this damn world?
I'm telling you, the love aspect for the religion, that you're going to get your blessings, that throws that out the window for family and love. It really does. It does not even cross their minds. They would rather watch someone die before they leave the religion.
So religion is more important than family.
Yes. It's more important than family. It's more important than life almost.
Crazy.
Like,
Do you think all religions are that way?
I don't know about all of them. I know some of them they work your mind to become, be directed in certain courses, but I don't think a lot of them practice the no love. That the religious aspect outweighs the family and love aspect. I mean, look at a casual Catholic family. You think they think that way? If one of their boys all said, I don't want to believe in this Catholic church, do you think the dad or the mom's going to be like, oh, yeah, you're POS. I'm never talking to you again. Even if I'm dead, I don't want to see you again. What
about the Mormon religion? Does it happen?
I've had conversations with a couple of these guys that are Mormons, and no way. Would never think of that direction. Ever.
Some of them, though, when I know some Mormon people that leave the religion and their family doesn't talk to them anymore.
I guess there's that case out there,
It happens.
Happens.
Religion.
But I guess the Mormon folk that I've had conversation with, like, hey, would you shun your kid for the rest of your life if they made a decision not to believe in your practices? And I, talked to Kellen about this. He's just like, oh, no.
Yeah, religion's a crazy thing. Creates a lot of separation at times.
Why?
Because we've got different belief systems, so then you can't, be in that.
Isn't that just an ego thing with the human?
It doesn't make any sense to me, but I just witness it. I live in Utah.
I believe in this. You believe in that. I hate you for this. I love you for that. Yeah. Come on.
We all have different belief systems. Let's just get along here.
Yeah.
Make life
Literally,
Simple.
let's think of us instead of just arguing how my religion's better to you than yours, and I think different than you. How about this? Let's think of this. How can I be a service to that person to make and build up that person?
Yeah, absolutely.
Take the religion
easy.
out of it. It's easy.
Way easy. Here's a big question. What would you say to your mom and dad if they were here right now?
Right now.
What questions do you have for mom and dad?
If my dad and mom were sitting right here in this room, right here, I'd look my dad in his face, and I'd say, Dad, do you love me? And then I'd turn to my mom, and I'd ask her the same question, just to see what their emotional reaction would be, their body language, their emotions.
Oh.
That is one big question.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Because in some parts of my heart, I still love the heck out of them. Others, I don't even know. It's just such a torn fabric canvas that it takes so much to repair it, knit it back together, man. It'd take a lot.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, you have been a gem today. And I got about another couple hundred questions, but we'll maybe save those for you and Alika. Maybe we could have a little, group discussion. Get a lot of her feedback and hear her story. She's got an incredible story too.
Oh, wow.
That'd be fun to hear the both of you converse for a few hours. But hey, thanks for coming down, driving to Utah from Colorado City. It's been a pleasure to hang out with you for the last 24 hours. I'm always here for you if you need me. I love it when you call. I love it when you text. I love it when you got questions. Stay curious. And, and for the listeners out there, do the same. Stay curious. Your goal this week or your exercise is to go make truce with somebody and forgive somebody. Be unconditional loving to somebody that you haven't talked to in years. Go make it right. Life's too short, and whatever story you're running in your mind, it's not true. If I could get a hold of your mom and dad and have a discussion with them, I think it would be incredibly freeing for them and maybe even me. Some things on this planet we just don't understand, and what a life you've lived thus far, Andrew, and I hope you keep plugging away, and I'm here if you need anything, and you are an amazing soul, and don't forget that. And by the way, I love you.
Yeah, love you too, man. You're a good man. You are.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for listening, guys. If you got to find me, themindsgym.com. If you're buying or selling a house, skipropertiesutah.com. And thanks so much for listening. This was a long and beautiful. A ton of wisdom was shared by Andrew today, and I hope that you or somebody out there benefited from this discussion. And if you got some family issues, go make them right. Quit wasting your time. I told Andrew today, walking in this door, love is natural, and hate takes a ton of work. It's not natural, and it takes a bunch of energy. Love is easy. It's simple. It's free-flowing. That's what you were born with. You weren't born with hate. So go back to being a child and treating people as such. If you're struggling out there, you need somebody to talk to, I'm here, and be happy to consult with you, whether it's your mind or whether it's a business you're running. I've got volumes of information that can turn your world around, so reach out. Peace and love, everybody. Thanks so much. We will see you again soon. And thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Brandon.
Forgot to ask you. Did you want to ask me anything? Any questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask you one little simple question. How did you start the Mind's Gym podcast?
Basically, after I went through my anxiety and depression meltdown when I was, 10 years ago. I don't know if I've ever told you that story. Do you know? A little bit. So I was majorly struggling with anxiety and started doing my work, trying to go dig deep, remove as much trauma as I can. Still a work in progress, but I just thought the mind's everything. That's all that exists. I told you today I've got it on a T-shirt that I make sure I give you a T-shirt when we get home. But the whole entire world exists between your two ears, right? So if you can take your mind to the gym, exercise your mind, it gives you the ability to have more clarity, to be more decisive, make clear decisions. But to clear your mind and to work your mind in my way, like Byron Katie taught me 10 years ago, like you have to question your thinking. And when you question your thinking, your negative thought patterns fall away. So like as far as your affirmations and all that go, like you question that negative mindset. And that's what the Byron Katie work is all about, is getting your stories to fall away. Because all we do is pack stories in our mind, and they're not true. They're all, crazy, imagined stories the mind creates to keep you at bay.
Yeah.
And so when you question the thoughts fall away. Therefore, you become happier, more at peace, more loving, more forgiving. Learn how to love unconditionally. The person you're upset with, you're no longer upset with them because you ran the story through your mind with the facilitator that holds the space for you to see the actual truth of what took place in any given situation. Like you with your dad. My dad won't call me, and it'd be a fascinating worksheet for you because it's driving you nuts. Your brain can't make sense in your mind of why your dad won't see you, shake your hand, talk to you. But if you break it all down, the story you're running in your mind is different than the reality of it.
Yeah.
But life happens so fast, the mind can't really stay up with actuality. It creates a story about what it sees because it's always perceiving. It's got this little radar dish, and it's perceiving from all of its past experience, your past upbringing, your past education. And then you take all that drama and you put it on the now, and it tweaks reality because you're not seeing it for what it is. You're not seeing it as the 3 or the 4 or the 5-year-old. You're seeing it as the damaged 52-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm 52 right now. I've got trauma and damage from my past. So when something shows up and I get out of touch or out of sync or depressed or anxious, I know I'm seeing a story that isn't true because the mind just creates all this, and then we believe it. And then we live our life from the crazy, imagined, false reality that the mind perceives. So the worksheets is a way to clear your mind and get you back to thinking as a child again.
That's amazing.
And then I thought about the mind and take the mind to the gym. So that's where I come up with the name. And then, 2 or 3 years after learning and studying the mind, I'm like, I need to share this knowledge that I've learned because it's helped me so much. Just like you're like, hey, you want to share what you learned from Bob Proctor. There's so much good information out there, and Bob Proctor really resonates with you. I love Bob Proctor too. I love Byron Katie. I love all sorts of different individuals that all have a different taste, touch, look, and feel on life and reality and how to get what you want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of was my
awesome.
basis, was just to give back. Like I felt like I was given a gift 10 years ago, and I just want the world to have a slice of what's made me be able to function as a semi-normal human being.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing, Brandon. That's absolutely amazing because what giving to the public your knowledge is going to do for you? Action, reaction. It's going to help you.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Yeah. So, I could, some people,
That's awesome.
Depending on who you talk to, but like, why am I doing this? So I can talk to myself. And I can let myself know that I need to stay in my practice. So I sit here and listen to you and I learn. I sit here and I listen to me. Like I listen to everything I say and I take it to heart. So if I'm telling somebody that they need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, it's a reminder that I need to do more work on A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, because I'm just putting that on this imagined person in front of me, but I know it's the work that I need to go deeper into. So everything that we do here is for us. But in the meantime, I really hope that somebody picks up some knowledge from these discussions that may shift and alter their life in a positive way. And if it does, great. That's why I'm here. It's my, you mentioned it earlier. It's my purpose to sit with human beings and love them and hold them and hug them and talk to them and have some deep conversations. And also, but I'm so damn honest with humans when I sit with them. And even that's shocking and hard for them to hear, but I only speak truth.
Wow.
But truth's sometimes hard to hear.
Very, very, but it's the best.
So, but yeah, it's what we want to hear, but the ego sometimes doesn't want to hear it because the ego struggles with truth and honesty. So that's kind of the story.
Awesome.
About the Minds Gym.
Appreciate that.
Of course. Anything else?
Yeah, your wife. Where did you meet your wife at?
I met my wife. Good question. She's an angel, isn't she?
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. I played football when I was 8 or 9 years old in the Gremlin League. And all the boys on my team, I lived in Midvale, Sandy area. I played football in Midvale. My wife lived in Midvale. She went to a different elementary than me. And the boys on the football team, like, you've got to meet this Jennifer Vrain's girl. She's so cute. She's so pretty, Brandon. You'd love her. And I was only 8 or 9. I go to the symphony. Maybe it was 10. I don't know. Let's say 9 or 10. We go to the symphony, and my buddies are like, we're going to the symphony too from the football team. And, we're going to symphony at 2:00 with school as like a field day.
Okay.
And they're like, Jennifer's going to be there, so we want you to see her. She's really pretty. So we go to the symphony, and I think I said hi or looked at her and said, hi, I'm Brandon or whatever. And I thought, wow, she is beautiful. Well, that's when I was 10 years old. Didn't talk to her, didn't ever see her again. Then in middle school, I went to school at Wasatch Middle School, which is up in Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. But then it was a far bus ride. So then my 9th grade year, I went to Midvale Middle School, which is in Midvale, Utah. Well, my wife was going to Midvale Middle School, and we were both 14. Mm-hmm. I met her there, saw her, and that was all she wrote. Like, it's the prettiest girl I've ever seen, and I'm going to figure out how to make her mine. And when I find something that I want and I like, I'm going to get it.
Yep.
I don't mess around. My affirmations have been going on since I was 10 years old.
Dang.
And when I put the dream or the story in my mind, it's likely going to happen.
That's awesome.
So I figured it out, and trust me, we've had our struggles, and it's been 35 years of hanging out together, but she really is a gem. She is really good at seeing both sides of the big picture. She's got an incredible amount of wisdom, and for her to stick around me for this long, like she deserves a gold star.
Absolutely.
Because I'm kind of a crazy guy sometimes, and I whip all around this planet, and she just keeps holding on.
That solid rock right there, huh?
Yeah. So anyways.
That's how Alec is for me, man.
There you go.
That's my rock.
So, thank you again, everybody. That was quite a podcast today. I hope you guys love it. And please know that I love all you. Take care and peace. We'll see you again soon. I want to thank you so much for listening, and there is an immense amount of effort that goes into this podcast. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Remember, if I survived my crazy mind and thoughts, so can you. If you're struggling, asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Please follow us at The Minds Gym on Instagram and TikTok. Peace out for now from your friend, Brandon Bickmore, your turbo lover.